So you've picked your first adventure bike, you've learnt the basics of off-road riding, and now it's time to venture out and start planning your own adventure rides. But where should you start? Where should you go? How far should you ride each day? What do you need to bring? Do you have enough fuel? What if you get lost? And what mapping system should you use? There are so many questions that pop up once you start planning out a full adventure ride, but the truth is, a lot of rides don't end up happening due to poor planning or simply just because of not knowing how to plan a ride. So in this video, I'll show you how to start planning out an adventure ride step by step, so you can spend more time riding and less time worrying about the ride. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Josh and this channel is all about motorcycle adventure. The bikes, the gear, reviews, the adventures and tips and tricks videos just like this one. So if any of that interests you, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Two Wheel Adventure crew. I'd love for you to stick around. Now let's get into this video. Now before we actually start mapping out the ride, let's talk about some key points that need to be looked at before any of that can start. First off, you've got to choose the right ride, and this is where beginners often overestimate what they can handle. Difficulty matters more than distance when planning out a day of riding. Say for example, I'm planning an outback ride between two towns for the day. Roads in the outback are going to be mostly flat dirt roads, easy riding where you can sit on a decent speed for most of the day. Now you've made up your mind and you decide you can go 400 kilometers in a day, no problem at all. And you give yourself 8 hours or so to do this in. This should be fine in these sort of conditions if all goes to plan. Then on the other hand, let's say you're planning a day of riding in the Victorian high country, a place known for the complete opposite terrain. Rocky steep hill climbs can be around every corner in the high country if you don't know the trails ahead. So planning a 400 kilometer day in this area and expecting it to take 8 hours is probably a little bit ambitious. Now obviously if you know the trails ahead of time then you may be okay, but I know from personal experience when planning a ride on a map, don't always just solely rely on distance as your calculation for how big the day will be. As a bit of a rule, try and plan a ride that you could comfortably complete in 70% of the time available. That leaves a margin for things like breaks along the way, any navigation mistakes where you need to reroute, any unexpected track conditions, and also having to wait on any other slower riders to catch up. And that brings me to the next point of, are you solo riding or are you group riding? Now just like anything, both of these have their pros and cons as well. With solo riding, you can ride at your own pace and it's much more flexible on where you can go. If you find a cool looking track along the way, you can just change your route on the fly and you don't have to worry. But on the downside, you have no backup if things go wrong and you do need a hand. As for group riding, it's basically the opposite of all of this. You will have help on standby if things go pear-shaped, but on the downside, you have all that added pressure of keeping up with the group and having to go the same route as everyone else. Now for me, I fall somewhere in the middle of both of these. I do a lot of solo riding, but that's usually due to me filming all of my adventures, and I don't want to ruin other people's rides when I'm stopping along the way to try and film everything. But some of my favourite ever rides are group rides, and being able to share the whole experience with a bunch of good mates is always a massive bonus. The main tip I would give here is try and ride with people who ride at a similar pace to yourself. This helps remove the pressure of having to try and keep up and removes those at the front being annoyed that they have to keep waiting around for all of the stragglers throughout the day. Now, fuel range is an extremely important point to think about, but it's also a really easy one as well. Just make sure you know your fuel range and plan with a bit of a safety margin in mind. Let's say, for example, your bike's fuel range is 300 kilometers. You should realistically be planning in a fuel stop for around the 250 kilometer mark, or at least allowing for carrying some extra fuel as a backup if the distance to the fuel stop is a little bit further than your bike's range. If you don't know your fuel range on your bike, I would suggest finding out, and don't always rely on what your bike's electronics are telling you. Something that I've done with multiple bikes that I've owned over the years is throwing a fuel bladder on the back of the bike and just riding the bike until it goes completely empty. That way I know my fuel range, at least in ideal riding conditions. Just remember that things such as headwinds, sand riding, and using low gears all increase fuel use, hence why it's always nice to have a small safety margin. Be sure to plan ahead for the weather and conditions that you're going to face on your ride. Now this could mean the climate as well, so what time of year are you traveling? What season will that be? Are you traveling north or south? All of this will help give you an idea of the climate you will be riding into. And as well as that, check the specific weather forecast before you set off. Now, weather forecasts are rarely 100% accurate, but it will give you the best chance to be prepared and make sure that you've packed all of the correct riding gear or any extra rain jackets or a different set of gloves, things like that that you need to take along with you. Just remember that rain can turn easy tracks into hard ones very quickly. Wind increases fatigue, especially on an open outback ride where there is no shelter from the wind, and heat increases a dehydration risk, so be sure to pack some hydration tablets or electrolyte drinks for the ride. So you've ticked all of the boxes from the section so far, and now it's time to finally start planning out the route. Now, there is no secret when it comes to planning your routes, you just have to put in the work and do your own research. It's never going to always work out, unless of course you have ridden somewhere before and you know all of the trails. Or maybe you have some local knowledge from a friend, or maybe even an adventure riding group on Facebook with plenty of information available. But when I start the initial planning stages, I like to start with something nice and easy that everyone can access, and that is of course Google Maps. Now, I find it much easier to plan on a larger screen from a laptop or desktop computer rather than a phone, at least in the early stages. I may even cross-reference a paper map if I do have one available for a certain area, just for some more detailed information. Now, a good way to start is by picking out some points of interest for the day and your start and finish point as well. Then you can try and work out all of the routes between these once you know where you want to get to along the way. Now, I'll give you a quick run through here of how I like to plan my rides using Google Maps, so any of you who don't know how it's done can get a basic understanding of how it all sort of works. All right, I'm going to give you all a quick run through of how I like to plan these routes using Google Maps. As you can see here, I've just opened Google Maps, I'm on satellite view, and we are in Dargo in Victoria. I'm heading down there very soon, so I figured I'd use this as a little bit of a demo. I do have a couple of other tabs open up the top here, but a little bit more on them in a minute. Now, once you've opened Google Maps just like this, if you go up the top here to the menu bar, click on Saved. Now, this is assuming you all have a Google account already. Come over here to Maps. Now, there's a few other maps in here that I've already been playing around with. But if you come down the bottom and hit Create Map, it opens up this new section. You want to go Create, and it'll open up a new untitled map, and you can start your planning here. I'll zoom back in and find Dargo again, right there. Now, what we're going to do here, I'm going to make a route that goes from Dargo to Blue Rag and comes back again, a little bit of a day trip. Now, the easiest way from what I mentioned earlier is once you've got your points of interest in mind, you can list these ones here and get some directions to go where you want. So the Blue Rag trig point is somewhere up around here, right there. But anyway, I don't even need to find it on the map. If you just know it exists, you go up here on the top and click this little arrow with Add Directions, and that'll bring up a little extra spot here. Now, I just leave it as driving. There isn't a riding tab, I don't think, but for A, we're going to have Dargo, and it comes up with a list, so you can get specific if you're staying at a certain spot, but we'll just go Dargo, the town. And then B is Blue Rag. I'm going to just add, we'll go to the trig point. I want to go up to the trig point, and then boom, it just automatically adds A to B, and that's the quickest route to get there that it can figure out. Now, you can just leave it like that if that's all you want to do, but I'm going to add in some other spots now just to see what it'll do for me and try and show you how this all works. But I want to come back down south via Basalt South Track. Now, I can just search that on here again, I suppose, rather than trying to find it on the map. We'll go Basalt South Track, and then right there, it just adds it in for me. It's found the correct route. Now, I've done this ride before, so I know where this goes, but if you didn't, you can zoom in, you can check the route that it's taking, you can compare this with an app on your phone with some mapping or a paper map or anything else. You can just jump back over to the first tab we were in, and you can use this here. That's why I had those other tabs up the top open. You can jump back to Google Maps, and then you can use this one here to zoom in on the route that it's planning to take you on. Blue Rag Range Trig Point. And then you can zoom in and find the actual track that it's taking you on. I know all these tracks are dirt roads, but if you didn't, you can zoom in and go, okay, yep, that's a dirt road, or that's a tar road that it's trying to take me on, just to confirm yourself there. But back to the planning, down Basalt South Track, and let's just say I want to go back to Dargo from there. That's going to be our little demo loop. then boom, takes me straight back into Dargo. Now, one downside on this planning section here, I haven't been able to find a way that you can see the distance of the route. So you do have to find out your distances using this one here. You can try and make up that route again in here and get the confirmation of how far it is. Or if you do export this in a GPX, that'll tell you either way. So that's just a quick way to plan out your route for the day with some points of interest using the ABCD down the side here. But let's say you want to fine tune this route a little bit. You don't want to take those specific tracks. Let's see if this thing will play ball and work with me. Sometimes it can be a little bit fiddly, but let's say instead of taking this main track back, which is, I can't even remember the name of it, McMillan's Road. Let's just say we want to jump onto Good Hope Spur track instead. Rather than trying to put it in on the left here in ABCD, adding another one, you can just put the cursor over it, drag that over to this track, drop the pin there, and there you go. It's avoiding that track and it's taking you on a different one. So I don't think there is a limit of how many you can drag around, but you can go around this whole route and try and fine tune this thing everywhere. You can try and drag it over to different spots and just make your own route. Just as long as you put in all your points of interest to start with, you know you're going to get to those main points along the way. Then you can just fine tune everything like that. Now the reason I had these other tabs open up the top, it's all Google Maps and Google Earth as well. The reason I had the Google Maps one open was just so, like I said before, you can zoom in on the tracks that you're going to take and just see what they actually are. Is it a dirt road? Is it going to be a tar road? Obviously it's not 100% accurate. Sometimes this isn't fully up to date when you're looking at it, but that's a good way to check if you're on dirt road or not. And then Google Earth finally, I use that up here. Not to check the dirt roads so much, but if you hit that button down the bottom here, 3D, you get a great overview. Let's try and do that again. Usually it spins, there we go. You get a great lay of the land and you can see the elevation changes. It doesn't give you measurements, but it gives you a good idea of a track that you're gonna do. You can see that that just drops straight down to Talbotville, down to the river, so you know you're gonna have some steep downhills or uphills if you're going the other way. You know if you've got rivers to cross, all that kind of stuff, but it's a good way to have those three browsers open so you can go through, plan your route, you can cross-reference it with Google Maps to see the dirt roads or any other tracks that are around that you might want to drag the cursor over to, and then Google Earth finally, just to get a good lay of the land. But that's a quick overview of how I like to do it here on Google Maps, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I do next from this section. But if you do want to transfer these over to GPX files, just jump on Google Maps map planning to GPX file conversion, something like that. It should give you all the information. It's really not hard at all. I'm pretty sure you just copy the link up top here and you put it in some other websites and it'll completely make a GPX file out of it for you. But that's my quick rundown. That's how I like to plan all these rides at home firstly, before I move over onto GPS units and phones. So once I have my route all sorted on Google Maps, I like to use my phone next with the navigation app I'm using and cross-reference the route on Google Maps and recreate this in the app itself. Now it may take me a little bit of extra time doing it this way rather than exporting a GPX file from Google Maps, but I just like to double check everything within the app and make sure the route actually shows there as well. I only really use two apps for navigation on my phone. I use the Garmin Explore app if I plan on sending the route to my Garmin GPS unit after I make it on my phone, and then I can have that on my bike. Or if I plan to just use my phone for navigation along the way, I generally use the Gaia Maps app. Now there's a whole bunch of other apps out there to choose from, so just choose what suits you best. Now there are a few pros and cons when it comes to using a phone or a dedicated GPS unit to think about. Firstly, with the phones, now they're obviously easy to use and they are cheap as well because most people already have one laying around ready to go. The cons here with the phone are its battery life, unless you have a charge point on your bike to keep it topped up at all times. The heat can sometimes be an issue for some phones when they overheat and you can't use them for a little while until they cool back down. And the last con is no signal in remote areas. So make sure that you download all your mapping onto your phone for the area you're going to be riding in before you head out on your ride. Now moving over to the dedicated GPS devices, the pros with this are they are all super reliable. You can count on these things most of the time, and they are built for the punishment of living on a motorbike's handlebars with all the dust, rain, things like that. And the cons with this are they are very expensive. Obviously you have to outlay a fair bit of money to get one of these to start with. And there also is a steep learning curve when it comes to figuring out how to use these devices properly. Just a quick tip, always double check all of your routes and mapping, whether that's on the phone or a dedicated GPS device, before you leave home. Nothing worse than getting out on your ride and finding out you haven't downloaded the maps for your area. Now, if you listen to nothing else in this video, please pay attention to this one, safety planning. And this is especially important if you plan on doing some solo riding. But be sure to tell someone where you're going. Now, I always tell my family and my partner where I'm going, and I usually share the GPX files with them as well, so they know my intended route of travel should something happen to me along the way. Also, be sure to share a rough return time, so your family and friends know when to expect you back, and make sure you carry water and some basic tools so you can get yourself out of trouble most of the time. Try and do some work on your own bike while you are at home, just by using the small toolkit that you will carry on your bike. That way you know what tools are actually useful to carry for your specific bike. There isn't much point carrying tools that you will never use. And my last tip when it comes to safety would be to get yourself a satellite communicator or PLB of some sort. Now, I like to use the Garmin InReach Mini myself. It's a small device that lives on my backpack strap, and I can use it through my phone. It makes it possible to send messages out no matter where I am, as long as the device has some charge in it. And it also has an SOS button ready to go if things do go severely wrong. But I do like that I can send messages just to let my family know that I've made it to my intended destination and I am okay. As well as this, if there was an issue like I had run out of fuel or the bike had broken down somewhere, but I was physically okay, I don't have to hit that SOS button and have all the resources coming my way thinking my life is in danger. I can simply say what the issue is. But whatever you choose, be sure to test it before you leave home, just to make sure that it is in working order. Thankfully, I've never needed to hit that SOS button, but it is nice to know that it's there if I do need it. Now, in my opinion, one of the best skills in adventure riding is knowing when to turn around. Sometimes we can bite off a little bit more than we can chew in those planning stages, so once you're out in the field, sometimes you've got to know your limits. You might have fatigue set in later on in the day, even when you've still got a fair chunk of the ride to go. Maybe you can find an easier way around, or maybe it's time to call it quits and just beeline it to the finish point on the road if you can. Once fatigue sets in, that's when big mistakes can happen, so try and avoid this. Also, maybe the weather can turn bad, making the tracks ahead extremely hard. Now, this may not be an issue if you're on a single cylinder bike, but if you're on a big twin cylinder, you might want to spin around and find an easier route. Now, time is another factor we've got to think about. Sometimes we just don't have enough of it to complete the route we had in mind. Now, there's always next time to ride that final track. And lastly, we've got confidence. If something doesn't feel right and you aren't confident tackling the tracks ahead, there's absolutely no harm in sitting this one out or finding a way around. It's better to know your own limits and ride out of there in one piece instead of needing to call for the emergency services if something does happen. Turning around isn't failure, it's just experience. So basically, a good adventure ride starts well before the engine even turns on. Put that extra effort into the planning stages, and this will minimize the risk of things going pear-shaped when you're out on the tracks. Or even if they do go pear-shaped, at least you'll be well prepared and ready for whatever comes your way. Now, in the next and final video of this Ultimate Beginner Adventure Rider Guide, I'll show you how to pack properly so your bike stays light, balanced, and comfortable out on all of your adventures. And as always, a massive thank you to all of you for watching these videos. I appreciate all of the support. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, and make sure you check out all of the links down below in this video's description to help support the channel directly with a YouTube membership. If you want to get early access to all of the videos, you can purchase a GPX file there, or even some merch as well. And don't forget about supporting all of the channel partners that keep things ticking along here and helping me bring you all of these videos. Ride safe on your own two-wheel adventures, and I'll see you here in the next one.
Ha ha ha.